G'day there guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. I do hope you enjoyed today's episode, and with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the barbie, and let's get right into it. Posted by user Am I the Asshole Mask, titled, Am I the Asshole? My wife says I'm asking her to mask. Hi Reddit, sorry for this sock puppet account. I am 34 male, and my wife Polly is 32 female. So like a lot of couples, we debrief after our work days. Polly works in a high-touch, high-interaction job, so we usually say our hellos, make dinner, and then eat separately so she can wind down a bit. And then afterwards, we sit in the living room and shoot the shit. Polly has a mild neurodivergence. That means she tells, let's call it branching stories. She'll get bogged down in side stories and background stories, and details that, frankly, add nothing to the core story about her workday. That's usually fine, but I've noticed it getting a bit worse, to the point that by the time she's done, it's basically time to watch a show and go to bed. I mean, I'm spending upwards of an hour just listening and adding, and oh wow, because she says she gets even more distracted when I ask questions. I brought this up with Polly, and she said that I'm asking her to mask her disorder, and that's just how her brain works. I get that feeling, I really do. But I'm starting to feel like I'm a side character here because she takes up all the airtime that we set aside to debrief. Here is why I might be an asshole. I said, well, we all change our communication styles based on context, right? And she said that's different, and that masking is not code switching. I just want some time to talk about my day too, but I don't want her to feel bad. Am I the asshole? Honestly, no. You communicated in a healthy manner. You've done, I feel like, everything you can do without being overbearing here. Your partner's not giving you a fair suck of the sav in this situation, which, is just unfair to you. And for you guys that don't get Aussie English, I'm not explaining myself. If this time that you guys have set aside is to debrief, and she's taking up all the breathing room in this situation, how is that letting you debrief? Especially when you can't add anything to the conversation without it becoming even more so about her. I'd also imagine this is some sort of a damned if you do, damned if you don't, because your way of coping with this is going and oh wow, and I'd imagine if that continues for long enough without you bringing it up, she'd be like, well, you never ask questions, you never really interact with me, you just nod and agree and don't add anything. I think you've been very much proactive in this situation, and you've taken the lead in trying to solve things. It is now up to her to listen to you and work together on coming to a peaceful resolution here. I can't comprehend in what world changing communication styles based on context is asking her to mask her neurodivergence. That doesn't make sense, that's putting words in your mouth, and again, is unfair to you. So in this situation, I don't think you're the asshole here. In the comments, Zelda T Elitist Art says, not the asshole. There's no reason why you guys can't take turns telling the day's stories. Also, you say she's untreated. Well, she needs to get treated. OP replies, trying. There's also a lot of self-treatment/helper app options out there that simultaneously teach us ADHDers about our condition. I noticed since I was diagnosed with ADD way back when, being the non-hyper type, the term has been made obsolete and rolled into ADHD. I find it strange because there is a massive difference. The biggest of which is this long-rolling, sidetracked storytime problem. I don't have that, but people who do can pick me out of a crowd and almost obsessively want to be friends, to the point where one such chap brought a car the same as mine just for a talking point, despite my lack of need or want for friends. That's insane to me. What? That's a thing? ADD has been removed from the psychiatric diagnosis manual and replaced with ADHD inattentive. Penny Arena says, not the asshole. What I'm reading is, both of you work outside of the home. At the end of the workday, you cook and eat separately to decompress. After eating, it's time to talk and catch up. However, you never have time to talk about your day. Somebody who has been diagnosed with neurodivergence can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think wanting to share your life with her is expecting her to mask. Is couples therapy an option? Specific Succotash says, I have fairly severe ADHD, and I have to be sure to step back my stories and talking now and then to give other people space. That isn't masking, it's being a considerate person. There is also a difference between demanding silence and saying, hey, that's a lot. I definitely echo the counseling recommendation. OP's wife demanding to be the main character of their home life is not exactly going to be the key to a successful relationship. Also, when in a relationship, it cannot just be about how one feels. She's showing zero regard for how her own husband feels. Yes, this feels like a classic, it's an explanation, not an excuse scenario. The neurodivergence may be why she monopolizes this shared time, but it doesn't make it okay. And if she's able to work in public, it means she has enough control over her condition to do better than this. My mum does this constantly. Is this a neurodiverse symptom? This may not work with your wife, but I tell my own mother that I'm losing the thread of her story, so can she please get back to the main path? Another thing I do is time box her. When I call her, I let her know that I have 30 minutes to talk. Yes, she does 99.98% of the talking, and that's fine, but at the 25-minute mark, I interrupt her and tell her that I only have 5 minutes left. I do this. I love time boxing. It just makes things so efficient in your life. Would recommend. OP replies, she really, really hates being told that she's off topic. It sounds a lot like your wife really enjoys when other people accommodate her divergent behaviors, but really hates having to manage them to accommodate the more typical behavior of others. She has to give you some sort of path forward that's not essentially, you just need to deal with my shit. It seems like she's put you in a position where you can't talk about it, can't avoid it, but can't help her manage it. Painting someone into a corner where they have no choice but to be a pawn and facilitator in your story is not how you manage being neurodivergent. It sounds like you've tried to find solutions. It's her turn to participate in helping to find a solution that makes you feel involved in your own marriage. If she's not willing to help you find a solution, then you need to go speak with a counselor of some sort on how to properly handle this. Update. Okay, so it turns out that I was a little bit of an asshole. Like, nothing wild, but we had a good talk. Here is what she said to me. Being a teacher is hard. Being a teacher with untreated ADHD is even harder. She said she spends all day trying to contain her brain from doing what it naturally does, which is veer off in random directions that may or may not be relevant to a given conversation. So she does that all day, and she literally looks forward to coming home so she doesn't have to do that. Me bringing it up in the context of how we interact at night hurt her feelings because us interacting time is her space where she can just let her brain be her brain. Is masking the right term there? I don't know. She apologized for using it because she saw it on social media and thought that it fit, but it might not. She felt bad for dominating the conversation though, because she's not a monster, and she says she lashed out because she felt bad, but also didn't want to lose access to the time of the day in which she is not fighting with her own brain. We decided to use the advice that I received here in Am I the Asshole? I will go first when we talk at the end of the night. If I regularly go over time, then we will start using a phone timer to make sure everyone has time to talk. And she'll try to work more interaction into her stories, so my role isn't just saying, yeah, over and over. Thank you for the advice. We are using it, and we are confident that it will work. In the comments, Golden Bee says, is treating her ADHD not an option? I think you've got a good compromise for your original issue, but I found myself to have further personal growth once I got mine treated, and it doesn't always mean getting on medication. I and others have had a lot of success with behavioral therapy. Do you love me some CBT? Although my therapist thinks my thought trees is more of a CPTSD syndrome. I related to your wife a lot in the first post because I would seriously digress in personal conversations, hence I nicknamed my habit thought trees, where the trunk is the topic, but all the branches were side comments and digressions. No assholes here, and it sounds like y'all have good communication channels. I 100% agree. My life got better with treatments. I can be a much better partner. I've had some trouble with my prescriptions this summer, so I've had to white-knuckle it through life more. Harder for me and for everyone else. Treatment is such a boon. The comment response on ADHD was so helpful. I have friends who start stories in the middle or share such disjointed thoughts, like, what are you even talking about, man? This gives much better context, and I realize I can be more compassionate to them. As someone with ADHD, it's really accurate to me too, and the whole starting in the middle bit is usually me struggling to filter out what is relevant and what is not, but overshooting it and cutting something useful out. Do you get that thing where there are so many thoughts going on at once that when you're trying to say something or someone asks a question, you legitimately can't answer because your brain overloads and you can't pick the right info out of the static, or you fish out the wrong thing and people just think that you're weird? Because yeah, that's my biggest issue for why it takes me so long to answer sometimes. I'm a teacher with ADHD, and I can no longer take meds due to side effects. I am fried and completely unable to concentrate or mask at the end of the day. However, that doesn't make my husband's or kids' needs go away or just matter less somehow. We accommodate. All four of us, parents and kids, have it. We have to accommodate somehow, or we would fall apart. Just a fun fact from your local anxiety-riddled ADHD sufferer, they do make medications for ADHD that are not stimulants. Clonidine is a great example. No idea your situation, obviously, but I thought I'd share. Our next post is by user offmychesttemp2255, titled, "My husband came to terms with his death, and I just can't deal with it." I, 42 female, have been married to my husband, male 38, for over 10 years. We met when I was 24 in a club. Ever since I knew him, he could never accept any health damages. He fell from a ladder from 2 meters or so, went into hospital just because I insisted. When he was 25, he started to complain about his knee hurting really badly when he bends it. It took me 5 years to send him to the doctor over this. He ended up having surgery, after which he was supposed to rest for 2 months. After 2 weeks, he was back at working out and jogging. 2 years ago, he was diagnosed with leukemia. He straight away stopped smoking after the diagnosis and worked out even more than before so that he could boost his health. It didn't help at all, and last month his health went downhill. He got all pale, he got weak to the point that I had to help him upstairs on a few occasions. 2 days ago while dining, our daughter, 15 female, asked if he could take her hiking to the Alps next year. He just said something along the lines of, "I'm not sure if I'll still be around by that time." I still held my cool. After that, our daughters left to go to sleep and I blew up on him. I just started screaming. I can't even remember exactly what it was anymore. Something like, "From the moment I met you, you never gave in to any health condition. You always overcame everything. And from now, out of nowhere, you accept your own death?" Normally, he would raise his voice at me saying, "We are not animals in this house, so we will not scream at each other." But not then. He just glared into the corner of the kitchen and said nothing, and when his eyes started watering, my heart shattered into thousands of pieces. In that moment, I knew I only have a short time left with the love of my life, and I will forever regret blowing up at him. In the comments, Cold Committee says, "I have medical conditions that almost killed me on a number of occasions. I've spent weeks in the hospital in total madness because of the amount of drugs they were giving me to control the pain and keep me calm in case I wasn't going to make it. What I learned? There are things in life that we can experience that are worse than death. I used to think that dementia wouldn't be so bad as long as I wasn't in pain, when in fact, it was terrifying. Worse than physical pain is the feeling that you no longer have any control." I don't know if that's the same realization that your husband came to, but he has a big fight on his hands. Perhaps he may know more than what he is saying. Anyway, I no longer fear death, but fear the pain and madness of end-of-life preparations even more. He may have accepted the inevitability of it all and just needs you to be present. People don't realize how terrifying it is to have no control in your life until they do. And losing part of your mind can be one of the most terrifying things, for when you can't even control yourself, you feel like there's nothing you can control. It's emotional for everyone, and nothing can prepare you for it. He's already forgiven you, OP. Yeah, 100%. I can guarantee you, he definitely isn't thinking about how she yelled at him about this. He's probably thinking about everything he's done with his family. First steps, home, vacation, school dance, etc. A 10-year-old boy in my town has been fighting cancer since he was 5. He never complained about the pain or the multiple treatments that he had to endure. When the doctor said that there was no more they could do, and his parents, fighting to keep their composure, told him, he comforted them and told them, "It's okay, heaven sounds pretty good right now." And he passed about a week later. Oof, that is so sad. That's probably what OP's husband doesn't want, to put the family through that. Blood cancer is one of the more difficult ones to get rid of, and it always comes back one way or another. Back up to the post, we have an edit. I apologized for everything. He told me that I didn't even have to, that it's only natural, and that stages of grief are a real thing. To all the people saying he deserved it because he was smoking, I hope you never have to go through something like this. At first, I didn't even want to edit anything here, but seeing how many people showed their sympathy, I needed to say thank you to all of you. We had a long talk today, and I decided to arrange bucket list days for him so he enjoys the last few months he has. Updates. I miss my husband so much. Hello, Reddit. I hadn't really had the intention to post on here again, but my therapist thought that it might be therapeutic to do so since it helped me the last time. My kids are at my late husband's parents', so I've had some wine to give me the strength to actually write this down. As you might have guessed from my previous text, it happened. My husband died about half a year ago, and I miss him so damn much. I've wanted to thank all of you who suggested grief counseling. Me, my late husband, and our 2 daughters started attending about 2 months after my original post, and without it, we would most likely be more destroyed than we already are. I also wanted to thank the person who suggested for my husband to film videos for our daughter's life goals. We together made some videos for their graduation, marriage, first child, and other major life goals. It actually took us much longer than it could have because it was just too hard for us. The realization of the fact that our life together was over was just so hard. If the text doesn't make sense, I'm very sorry. I'm crying with every word I write, and I take breaks, so the text might be unreadable. I will try to correct any mistakes. Now to the happy part. Before the love of my life got really bad, we tried to do as many things from his bucket list as possible. I never thought that I could enjoy so many things I wouldn't care for otherwise, like MMA. It was his passion for such a long time, but he never actually saw any fight in person. We finally went to the castle in the center of our city for the first time after living here for 6 years. Never had the time. Now we had all the time in the world for ourselves and our kids. We traveled a lot. We went to see the Stonehenge, which is such a curious sight. After that, we went to see the fjords, which fascinated him so much. We went to see the Northern Lights, too. It was just so beautiful. We couldn't stay long anywhere, so we could get back to my husband's therapy, and the girls had to go to school. We also got to see the Colosseum and some more great sights. I hated myself for quite some time after the events of my last post. When he was still alive, he mentioned it only once, told me not to worry about it, that it was just the silent thoughts said out loud, that he doesn't want me to ever worry about it again or he'll haunt me. Some of you might think that it was not nice, but we used to have a specific humor, and we have one rule in our house. As long as it's funny, it's allowed. Also, if the person who is the butt of the joke finds it funny, then it's okay. He got really bad about a month before passing. I mean, when we were traveling, he was in a wheelchair, but that was only for the long walks. But the last month, he already couldn't move without it. I hated to see him in that state. It hurt both me and our daughters. It was just so painful, and I also saw his pain in his eyes. He was so angry that he couldn't go by his own way. Euthanasia is not legal where we live. He was always pro, I didn't used to be, but now when I saw how much pain he was in, I would do anything just for him to feel better. He deserved to choose his own way out. What he didn't deserve was to spend his last days in pain or under drugs. His last moments, our whole family were with him. With my parents and in-laws too, in one of his last moments conscious, he told us all how much he loves us. I tried to be so strong for our girls, and I was. I stayed together until after his funeral. After seeing him lifeless, I broke down knowing that it's all over, but at least he didn't feel any more pain. I will never forget you, Patrick. I will forever love you. You are my light in this dark world. You were the fire that kept me from freezing. Now I'll try to be as good of a support as you were to me, to our daughters, who love you so much. Miss you. In the comments, Mrs.239 says, I am so sorry for your loss. I too am a young widow. Cancer struck at 31, and he was gone in 10 months. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but I'd loved him since the 9th grade. I didn't know how I was going to live without him. It literally takes one day at a time. Sometimes it took going hour by hour. Let me see if I can still go to this next hour without crying. Then I made it to a day without crying, and then a week. It's been over 11 years, and some days are still hard. It took a long time to date again, but I'm finally in a wonderful and stable relationship. It took me 10 years to find him. You're a strong woman and a great mother to your kids. The love stays with you. Take your time to grieve, and I hope that the life that you live from here on out is a beautiful one. OP replies, I know I still got a long way ahead of me. I had such a long time to prepare for this, and yet I still feel like I have no idea where to go from here. The hardest thing for me was when my late husband wanted to talk about the post-me future. I know that it was necessary, and thanks to it, I have at least some sense of direction, but I feel like the world will just never be the same again. I'm super happy that you healed, and I hope to once be like you. Stoner Jack says, the last words I ever heard from my mum were, I love you, my darling boy. I'm no darling, but my mum loved me, and she never let me forget it. Parents, for Pete's sakes, always tell your children that you love them. Always. That's what parents do, and we all love them for that. I hope you believe what she conveyed to you on her deathbed. One never lies before their death. Reading this, hoping I never have to experience either side of this tragic story, but knowing the reality of cancer, it's highly likely I will. We all will. Treasure every moment like it's our last, build memories, and spend quality time with the ones we love. And I think that's a really beautiful message to go out on. I don't personally have too much to add to this one. I didn't have too much commentary because I don't have much experience with death in this capacity. Like, yes, it did kinda suck that OP lashed out at the husband there, but at that point it seemed as though he had accepted his death. And what can you do besides just be there to support him? We all react in just different ways when going through immense amounts of grief and pain. So I can't fault OP for yelling at him because I don't think she knew what to do in that instance. All I can hope from here on out is that OP is doing better and is slowly dealing with this grief as best she can. But that's where I'm going to leave you guys today. I do hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.